On November 4th, 1914, the British ship Endurance was making its way through stormy seas toward Antarctica, the most dangerous and mysterious continent on Earth. A crew of 28 men was aboard, led by Sir Ernest Shackleton. There was a different kind of fear in Shackleton's eyes because he wanted to accomplish something that no one had ever done before, crossing the entire Antarctic continent on foot. It was an extremely risky mission. With brutal weather, deadly blizzards, and temperatures dropping to -50 degrees Celsius, crossing Antarctica was almost like embracing death, especially in an era with no modern technology and no GPS devices. If successful, the expedition would have crossed the continent in approximately 140 days. However, no one knew just how disastrously this mission would fail. This is the story of Sir Ernest Shackleton and his 28 crew members, who survived for nearly 2 years on the frozen continent of Antarctica. It has often been called one of the greatest survival stories in history. On November 4th, 1914, the Endurance began its journey. Its first destination was South Georgia Station, a small island that represented the last human settlement before Antarctica. From there, the expedition planned to reach a location connected to the Antarctic coast. To get there, they had to cross the Weddell Sea, one of the most dangerous seas in the world. This was the exact area where Shackleton and his team intended to land. The weather in Antarctica was already extremely harsh, but despite the conditions, Shackleton and his crew continued pushing forward. As they advanced, the ice became increasingly dangerous. Shackleton ordered the ship to move at full power, but before long, the Endurance became completely trapped in the ice. Despite every effort and the engines running at maximum strength, the ship could not move. Weeks turned into months, and after nearly 3 months, cracks began appearing in the vessel. Slowly, the ship weakened under the crushing pressure of the ice. Realizing the situation was hopeless, Shackleton ordered his crew to abandon the ship. The crew's morale had begun to collapse. Constant hardship, freezing temperatures, and uncertainty weighed heavily on their minds. Many of the men became convinced that they would never see their homes, families, or normal lives again. Each passing day brought a new challenge, and hope seemed to fade a little more with every setback. Yet despite the grim situation, Sir Ernest Shackleton remained different. Fear and concern could be seen in his eyes, but so could determination. He understood that if he lost hope, the rest of the crew would soon follow. Their grand dream of crossing Antarctica on foot had completely failed. What had started as an ambitious expedition driven by courage and exploration had now become a desperate struggle for survival. The men were left with only 3 small lifeboats carrying their remaining supplies. They also had several sled dogs that had faithfully assisted them throughout the journey. However, survival was becoming more difficult with every passing day. As if their situation were not already difficult enough, an even greater threat was approaching. The brutal Antarctic winter was drawing near. This season would bring nearly 6 months of darkness with little to no sunlight. Endless ice, violent winds, and freezing temperatures would push both body and mind to their limits. Shackleton and his men knew that, unless they found a solution, their chances of survival would rapidly diminish. In these harsh conditions, they established a makeshift camp on the ice. Daily life became a battle against nature itself. They endured relentless cold, hunger, and exhaustion. Powerful storms frequently battered their tents, forcing them to rebuild and repair their shelter again and again. Despite these hardships, Shackleton worked tirelessly to keep the crew motivated.
Men, against us, but we will not fail! We will cross this ice together! Ship or no ship, we are going home!
He understood that survival depended not only on physical strength, but also on mental resilience. As the weeks turned into months, their food supplies steadily dwindled. The rations that had once seemed sufficient were now dangerously low. Eventually, the situation became so severe that only about a month's worth of provisions remained. Every man understood that without rescue or a new source of food, starvation would soon become their greatest enemy. Desperate to survive, they were forced to make heartbreaking decisions. One of the most painful was the killing of the sled dog puppies. These animals had been part of the expedition and were deeply valued by the crew. Yet there was no alternative. Survival demanded sacrifices that none of them had ever imagined they would have to make. During this time, Shackleton spent countless hours studying maps and evaluating every possible route. He constantly searched for opportunities that might save his men. Eventually, he informed the crew that they needed to reach a nearby island. It represented one of their last hopes for survival. Battling through dangerous ice and treacherous waters, they finally managed to reach the island. However, upon arrival, they discovered another devastating reality. The island offered no food, no shelter, and no signs of human life. Once again, they found themselves stranded in a hostile environment. Yet even then, Shackleton refused to give up. He immediately began planning the next stage of their survival. Shackleton announced that a small group would attempt to reach another destination known as Ant Island. According to his plan, this location offered the best chance of eventually obtaining help. The journey would be extremely dangerous, requiring them to navigate small boats across some of the roughest seas on Earth. Towering waves, violent storms, and freezing winds threatened to destroy them at every moment. Taking only 5 crew members with him, Shackleton set out on the perilous voyage. For weeks and then months, they battled the ocean and the elements. Every day felt as though it could be their last, yet their determination and Shackleton's leadership kept them moving forward. After approximately 3 months of relentless struggle, they finally reached their destination. Even then, the ordeal was far from over. To continue their journey, they had to travel on foot across rugged and mountainous terrain. The island was filled with steep slopes, deep valleys, and dangerous routes. They possessed neither detailed maps nor knowledge of safe passages. Nevertheless, they pressed onward, refusing to surrender. After many exhausting days of climbing and traveling, Shackleton finally stood atop a mountain ridge. From that vantage point, he saw something he had not seen in a very long time, a settlement and clear signs of human life. The sight filled him with immense relief and renewed hope. For the first time in many months, he truly believed that their nightmare might soon come to an end. When the local people encountered Shackleton, they were astonished. His long beard, gaunt face, and exhausted appearance made him almost unrecognizable. Months of hunger, cold, and hardship had dramatically changed his appearance. At first, many struggled to believe that this worn-out figure was the same famous explorer who had set out on such a bold expedition. Finally, after approximately 6 months, Sir Ernest Shackleton embarked once again aboard another ship to rescue the men he had left behind. During his absence, they had endured unimaginable suffering. Some had become so weak that they could barely walk, while others suffered from serious health problems, including heart-related conditions. Yet despite everything they had endured, they were still alive and waiting for their leader's return. Then came the moment they had been dreaming about for so long. Far out on the horizon, they spotted a ship approaching. At first, they could hardly believe their eyes. But as the vessel drew closer, excitement spread throughout the camp. Hope replaced despair, and joy replaced fear. They knew that their long ordeal was finally coming to an end. Nearly 2 years after the expedition had begun, in 1916, all 28 crew members and their courageous leader, Sir Ernest Shackleton, returned home alive. It was an achievement that amazed the world. Despite overwhelming odds, brutal conditions, and countless setbacks, not a single member of the expedition had been lost. This remarkable outcome stood as a testament to Shackleton's extraordinary leadership. This was more than just an expedition. It was a story of courage, perseverance, hope, and human endurance. It demonstrated that even in the darkest circumstances, determination and resilience can overcome seemingly impossible challenges. Through his leadership and unwavering commitment to his men, Sir Ernest Shackleton created one of the greatest survival stories ever recorded in human history, a story that continues to inspire people around the world more than a century later.